Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian on this Monday morning. This is the take for Market Rebellion. I'll tell you, last week, very interesting, very different in something that we had seen in the past. We hadn't seen it as much lately. Stood out last week. The Dow essentially was flat on the week. The NASDAQ, on the other hand, down 700, 800 points, something like that. Just severely getting the push to the downside. Why? Well, as we were watching those rates start to move up. Matter of fact, the 10-year closed out the week at the highs at about 2.7, somewhere in that range. You can understand that shift away from, I call it more risky, but the technology trade, semiconductor trade, and all kinds of others that fall into that category within the NASDAQ itself. And so we were seeing some selling pressure there. And a lot of those names, those big names with those ferocious size in terms of their PEs, if they even have PEs at all. A lot of those names were definitely under pressure last week. The volatility index back up above 20, and we were trading 20 to 22 on Friday, and actually going into the weekend closed right around those levels, around that 22 level. So it gives you a sense of some of the nervousness that's out there right now, and obviously that selling pressure. The Dow basically finished the day up about 130 points last Friday. NASDAQ down 180 points. You get the idea. And it was a little bit closer than that most of the time, but that was a pretty Friday, definitely. You were looking at those Dow stocks getting some of the love, and then, of course, the NASDAQ stocks not. And with the NASDAQ stocks, what was really getting hit? Well, semiconductors for sure. Names like NVIDIA and Marvell and KLAC Tencor, those kind of names. Okta, Tesla. We've been talking about Tesla being that measuring stick. Tesla down about 3% on Friday, pulling the markets with that. You had Zoom. You've had a lot of news of late in Boeing. Boeing definitely under some pressure. And then it's all of those big, the large cap technology names pulling on the markets. Names like Salesforce and Microsoft and Apple and Intel. All of those kind of names, definitely a pull on the markets. There is that area that's been standing out. I've been really lucky. You know, CNBC starts off the year, hey, what do you think in the first quarter, the first half of the year, blah, 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 blah. I went with healthcare. I like the healthcare field, and for fortunately, I guess, the right reasons right now, because as people are trying to mull their way through and try to figure things out, it seems like healthcare has just been that place that a lot of folks have found themselves. So we also had that Cardinal Health last week, CAH. That was one of those names. That was in positive territory. You had Regeneron, you had Gilead, you had Moderna. You get the idea. We had that call buying in Pfizer that really moved almost immediately. We had call buying in Merck. That stock moved almost immediately. So we had some really great moves along the way. We also had names like Home Depot, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. That Goldman move from, I was very lucky. It has nothing to do with skill, but I was looking at that name when it was at 52-week lows, and I made that decision that I was going to buy and sell calls against it. It might either be a very short hold for me, because the calls that I chose to go with were the 325 stock. At the time was about a 311. Didn't think that they were going to come into play as quick as they have. They're already in play now. Energy finished out the week very nicely, up about 3%, just a little bit below actually 3% or so. But that's in the face of watching the price of oil slip from 100 down towards that 96, 97 level. 39 million contracts were what we traded on Friday. A little bit short of where we've been on the averages, but nonetheless, seeing some of that volume. You know, it's off of that lower end of, call it 37 million, but a little bit disappointing going into the weekend. But this week is going to be an interesting week, obviously, because it's a shortened week. So we'll see if we see a little bit more volume coming there. Bitcoin, after getting up there towards that 48,000 level, has just been kind of steadily kind of sifting a little bit lower. Anybody who's paying attention to the crypto world understands what I'm talking about. Bitcoin finished out the week just underneath 43,000. Financials had a pretty decent day. Healthcare, like I say, had a good day, but it was technology, it was semiconductors, and consumer discretionary, all really pulling on the markets. This morning we come in, Dow down about 150, NASDAQ down about 180. People are talking about inflation. They're looking at the earnings, because this is the week that we term as the beginning of earnings season. And that's because we're now going to hear from the banks for the second time this year. Should be pretty interesting. And it's not just the banks, but we really are focused early on the financials. So we'll take a look at that, obviously, as we get a little bit deeper into this week. Now, after we get to the open, we're down about 100 points on the Dow, 190 on the NASDAQ. The Dow got all the way back. It was down only about 50 points or so. Not too bad at about top of the hour, first 30 minutes or so. NASDAQ just could not recover. Last I looked, we actually started to slip once again for the Dow. Dow was down about 160 and the NASDAQ down about 200. So a little bit of an acceleration now to the downside in this first hour. A lot of things can happen from here. Crude back towards that 93, 94. We were 96, 97 last Friday. Here we are, 93, 94. We've also got gold's been steadily, if you keep an eye on gold, steadily moving to the upside. Also, take a look at silver. Silver's been on a little bit of a move of late as well. Back towards that 25 area. Matter of fact, this morning trading around 25 and a half. It was up a couple of percent early. I think it's come in a little bit. 10-year, last I looked, was about 277. So once again, a little bit of an increase there. Oh, and by the way, Bitcoin, I mentioned that coming down. Now it's near that 41,000 level. So we're seeing a little bit of pressure there. Also, with some of that pressure and with this downward move and the size of the move that we're getting early on, you can take a look over at the volatility index. Yes, we've breached that 23 area once again. And so we're just above. So we're somewhere between, let's call it 2250 and 23 and a quarter, something close to that, but a little bit above 23 at this point in time. What changed from the early part of the session into where we were starting to see a little recovery to now? Well, I can tell you this. Technology was already down, call it 1.7%. It slipped. It's down a little over 2%, 2.25%. Energy was down about 1.5%. That's down about 2%. You can see sort of what the pull is in terms of the NASDAQ and what that slip was towards that 200 to the downside. Semiconductors under some pretty decent pressure as well. We take a look at names like NVIDIA, AMD, Marvell, all under pressure early on. You also look at some of those beta names within the energy space now not reacting as positively as they were before. So now they're a little bit of a drag as well. Names like Oxy and ConocoPhillips, APA. You look at all these various names, Diamondback, some pressure there. Nike, Cisco. But let me add a little bit to that. It's big cap tech, guys, that's really kind of pulling on things. Apple, take a look at Apple with a little bit of pressure on it. Amazon, a little pressure. Tesla, Facebook, Netflix, Google, Microsoft. You get the idea. You get all of those kind of names down 1% or more. And matter of fact, last I looked, Tesla was down about 3% again. That is some pressure on the markets that we are seeing right now. You do have some positives out there. Some of the airlines, Delta and American, we had that JetBlue little upgrade today as well. Amgen, you look over at something like Goldman Sachs, having a pretty decent day. Ross Stores, TJX. So there are some bright spots as well. But overall, we're seeing a little bit of that pull to the downside. We'll see if that's something that has a little bit of lasting power today as well. I got two unusuals for it. That's it. And I got no halftime, no 5 o'clock, no nothing. So it's the only time I'm going to see you today. I will be on WCCO radio in just about 20 or 30 minutes or so. That comes live streaming each and every day when I'm on there. It should be a lot of fun. We just had a great huddle this past Sunday. And now we're going to be talking about football and finance once again with one of the hosts over at WCCO Radio up in Minnesota. They got a great big audience. It's really a lot of fun. They do an unbelievable job. Next, unusual, Pfizer. Again, last week we had Pfizer, yeah? Some sizable buying in Pfizer, and boy, it made a move almost absolutely immediately with those 54 calls. Well, today the stock's trading just beneath 56. And we are seeing 9,000 of the April 59 calls. So these are a little bit further out, up rather than what we'd seen last time. They were buying last time right on top of it. Now going up, they're looking for a nice, pretty solid move in a fairly short period of time to go to that April. And these are the 59 calls, 19 cents up to about 38 cents. As I said, about 9,000 of these. I mentioned silver just a moment ago. We're talking about gold and silver and oil and all the rest of that. Take a look at this one, AG, which is First Majestic Silver. That one stands out. Not huge, but we hadn't seen anything really in silver for quite a while. We've seen a few gold. We've seen GLD, GDX, and some individual names, a lot less in the silver area. So seeing this one, AG, does stand out. Stock trading about 1375, 3,500 of the April 29th. So you're going to the very last weekend in April here. The 15 and a half calls doesn't have to make a huge move, but the 15 and a half calls going to have to make a little bit of a move to the upside, no doubt. 21 cents, 23 cents, fairly inexpensive options, just trying to see if silver's finally going to catch what a lot of folks have been talking about for a very long period of time. Maybe now is the time for silver to start making a move. We are seeing this. We'll see if we see some follow through in some of the other miners out there as well, maybe even some of the ETFs. Folks, have a great day of trading, and I would look forward to seeing you. Hopefully you can hear me on WCCO radio. If not, we'll see you tomorrow on The Take.